Hello, and welcome to Masters and Volz, the Business of Politics. This is a weekly podcast which brings you guests who work in the business of electing candidates to political office and influencing lawmakers. Whether we like it or not, politics is a business. It takes money, people, and organization to elect candidates and shape public policy. Our podcast is devoted to bringing you information in an unvarnished and unbiased way that cuts across the ideological divide. Our guests come from both sides of the political aisle, and we try to bring you a conversation. It's not a gotcha or an argumentative or an ideological screed podcast. It's something different than you might find in your typical political wardrobe of podcasts today. Bill, I'm Merrick Masters, by the way, and Bill Volz is my co-host. And I'm going to ask him to just say hello to the audience, and then we'll introduce our guest, who is Ron Bieber, the president of the Michigan AFL-CIO, one of the largest labor organizations in the state. Bill, just say hello to our audience.
Hi, I'm Bill Volz. Welcome. I'm a colleague of Merrick's at Wayne State at the Mike Ilitch School of Business.
Thank you. Ron, you've had a career, a distinguished and long career in the labor movement championing the cause of working families. You're a third generation United Auto Worker member. Your father was the former president of the International UAW, Ron Bieber. And at the UAW, you served as director of the Community Action Program, which I know has a political role to play. And also you served as the assistant director to the General Motors Department. And I think you hired in a General Motors plant in Michigan in Local 730, I believe. And you're now a member of Local 659. We want to talk a little bit about your political journey to the Michigan AFL-CIO and what you do in it from a political perspective. And so I'll ask you to comment a little bit briefly about how you ended up where you are today in that position, and what factors do you think led to your success in getting that position?
Thanks for having me, Merrick and Bill. It's great to be here with you. As you said, I grew up in a strong union household. Unionism was all I ever knew. It's all I ever saw as a kid, and it's all I wanted to see, frankly. And in that household, every fall, whether it was every 2 years, actually every year, because you'd have local elections, politics and elections were a big deal to us. I started out in the General Motors facility. I got elected to my first office at a really age, 23, I was elected in my first office. And I moved up the chain. I worked in the General Motors sector, did a lot of bargaining there in various assignments. And then I went to it's the CAP program. The CAP is the political program, Community Action Program. And Ron Gelfinger asked me to come over there and be his assistant and run that political department for the UAWs. That's where I really got my start in a sense, in the rooted political world, structured political world in the labor movement. I had done volunteer work all my life, but the structured part came when President Gelfinger asked me to come over there and be the CAP director. And then, frankly, in 2015, the AFL-CIO president said they were going to retire, and there was a question who was going to take it over. And from the UAW's perspective, I was the one who had been the interaction person with if I was a member of the AFL board and had served with the other affiliate unions on that board. So I stepped up and said I'd run, and I got elected in 2015 and reelected twice after that. So I think it's been, 9 years I've been president there.
What do you think if you had to list 2 or 3 of the key qualifications that you need in order to even be considered for that job? You had to have something that appealed to people for you to be considered as a candidate and asked to be in that position and formally approved, however it is according to the charter of the AFL-CIO of Michigan, whatever the case might be. But what would you say those are?
It's an elected office. You have to run. I went around and talked to the other affiliate leaders and said, look, I'm interested in doing this. I didn't have any opposition when I had gotten done talking to all my peer group. For me, I think it's that I had spent a lot of time with those other affiliate leaders. I think it was the ability to build relationships with them. And I think they saw me as somebody who could bring people together. That's a big, large labor federation. There's over 40 different affiliates, 1,200 locals. That's a lot of varied interests. And sometimes though, all those separate interests don't always line up perfectly, whether it's legislatively or politically. And I just think it was people had confidence in my ability to bring everybody together. And we pride ourselves on our solidarity that when we come together and make a decision that there's strength in our numbers and we're going to present a unified front. And I guess they saw me as somebody that they thought they had confidence in that could do that.
One last thing about what got you in the, I guess, position to be a logical candidate for being the Michigan AFL-CIO president. And I know it's a job that requires a great deal of balancing across all your different affiliates. Is it the experience that you had as director of the Community Action Program in terms of your role in politics? Because I know that politics is really important, both on the electoral side and the lobbying side, and in your position.
Yeah, 100%. Had I not had those years in that job at UAW, being the CAP director and serve, that job is the same kind of the job for the UAW that the president of the AFL is. It's running the legislative program and the political program, 100%. Had I not had that opportunity to serve at the UAW in that position, I would have never been at the AFL as president. 100%. That was my experience there, and showing that I could do that work got me to this level.
Thanks, Ron. And I'm going to ask Bill to pick up on the questions now.
I think maybe a little more detail on just a work month. I'd say a work day, but maybe a more representative. What's the proportion of your work? What are the creative elements that a president of the AFL-CIO is going to, what do you do when you get there in the morning? You know, what's the afternoon like? And heaven knows what's the evening like.
Every day is different. I'll say that. It depends on a lot on what time of the year it is, what's going on. And Michigan has a full-time legislature. Now they have downtimes. They're down mostly now for the summer, and then they're up through the election. They'll be in, but not a lot. So it depends on the time of the year as much as anything. When you never know. With a full-time legislature, you never know. You can come in one day and something's ready to move. We always have to keep our eyes on what's happening in the legislature. Politically, it runs, now's busy time for sure. Now through November 5th, it's 24/7 pretty much. And to be honest, the job is 24/7. There's a lot of, like I said, there's 1,200 local unions in here. Somebody always seems to have something going on, whether it could be a strike situation. We play a role in that too, of supporting and mobilizing people. Like I said, solidarity is a big thing with us. So an injury to one is an injury to all is an old phrase, but it holds true today, and we believe in that. So every day is different. Right now, almost, I won't say 100%, but almost 100% of my day is focused on the political election and all that goes into that. That is this time of the year, it's 7-day, 24-hour a day cycle. But it depends on what's happening. When the UAW had their bargaining, that's a focus then. And you just got to juggle all these balls all at once. But you can predict what our big focus is based on the time of year.
How about fundraising? I'm sure, I guess now we're at the expenditure stage, but how big a part of your job is collecting those revenues?
We're a voluntary labor federation. Nobody has to be a member, so they volunteer to the union volunteers to affiliate with us. Now you pay a per capita tax based on how many members you have, so we have a steady income, but that's to keep the lights on and pay some salaries. So fundraising's a part of it. When it comes to election season, we have to go out and raise funds to run our election program. Same with the legislative program. If we're going to do a lot of advocacy or put on a lot of programs at the Capitol, sometimes we go out and raise funds to do that. But for sure at election time, we run a big, broad, comprehensive electoral program for our members. So fundraising is a big piece of it. But our affiliates they're committed to winning elections with labor-friendly candidates who will stand up for our issues. So they're pretty good about it.
Interesting. Back to you, Merrick.
I would ask to follow up on one of those things about the nature of your job. Who would you consider your boss? Is there anybody you have to really worry about ticking off and remaining in that position? Is it the people that are on the board of the Michigan AFL-CIO that have the votes, so to speak, to determine who is in that position?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm accountable to the board. It's a big board. There's a general board that's over 40 people on that board, and then an executive board. The Constitution dictates what I do or what powers I have, but that board, I'm accountable to that board. Now, I work for the old one, active and retired members and their families who are members. So that's who I work for every day. But then, like I said, there's over 1,200 locals that are affiliated. So that's a lot of local leaders that all have access to me, and every member has access to me. But accountability, I'm accountable to that, to our board.
Would being particularly in tune with your convention delegates be something that is really critical to being effective in that position? Because to have outreach, you've got to be able to connect with those locals in your affiliates. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I said, you've got to be accessible to all of them. To be honest, I've got a great staff that does a lot. I get a lot of credit for a lot of work that I don't actually do myself. The staff does, but they're out there every day interacting with these local leaders, and I'm dependent on them. You hire good people. Like I said, I'm blessed to have a great staff, super talented young people that want to do this work and want to make things better for working people in the state. So they do a lot of that interaction day to day. I'm in constant contact with my board, and yeah, when it comes to getting elected, it's convention delegates. A lot of those are the people that we end up to be the people that we interact with a lot in our jobs.
Just parenthetically, I took a look at your website and I was very impressed with the diversity and the youthfulness of your staff, that it is a interesting opportunity for people if they want to get engaged. And so I would encourage viewers to look at the website if you want to get a better view of the people who work behind the scenes in your organization. I'd like to shift to a little bit about successes and setbacks. You, in your position, which is one where the stakes are very high in representing so many people on key issues affecting government and economics, that if you had 2 or 3 major successes, what would you say they were? And then if you've had any setbacks that you think are noteworthy, what would they be as you look at the role you've had in this position since you've had it almost 9 years now?
I'll start with the setbacks. It didn't start when I got there, but from 15 to 18, just to be frank and honest, the Republicans controlled all of state government from all 3 branches, and workers took it on the chin. We got gutted in that period from 2010 when they took total control to 2018 when they had total control for 8 years. We got gutted. Things that legislation passed that was anti-worker, anti-union, that I never dreamed I'd see happen. And that's telling of the politics of today versus the way things used to be. Even in 15, a lot of it happened in 11 and 12, but even in 15 through 18, my first years there, first 3 years, we kept getting gutted. Yeah, but the politics has changed so much. There were, in the past and years past, I'm talking a couple decades ago, there were lines that neither side would cross. No matter who had power, neither side would cross it. If you don't think John Engler wanted to put in right to work, he did. Trust me, he did. At his core, he did, but they didn't do it because they knew eventually that there was more of a working together, collegiality in the legislature, and it didn't cross certain lines either side. And boy, that's all gone now. That's a shame. In my mind, it's a shame. Just the bad legislation that happened. Now, successes, I'll say, once 2018 hit, it's been we scratched and clawed our way back, but passing that ballot proposal on getting an independent redistricting commission was key. The lines, the electoral lines in this state were gerrymandered. They were rigged. I've been on other podcasts with some of the people who were in power who were the ones who rigged them. And today they laugh about it and say, oh yeah, we cheated, we rigged them, we gerrymandered those lines. That was a game changer to make those elections fairer and giving everybody a fair shot. That was a game changer. That was definitely a highlight. The 2018 election was one of the best in my lifetime for working people. And tantamount was electing Governor Whitmer, because once we got Governor Whitmer in office, even though the Republicans, we still had the rigged districts and Republicans controlled the two legislative branches, we knew we had a backstop. She was going to veto any bad worker legislation. And at least you could breathe. You didn't get up every morning wondering what bad was going to happen today to working folks. So that 2018 election, the three women who won those top offices all turned out to be great for working people. Then winning the Supreme Court back, that made a huge difference. I always felt before that court got turned around that it was one of the most politicized and rigged courts in the state. And in my mind, that empowered the legislature to do a lot of things that they did, because they knew if they took it to court, that court was going to have their back, whether it was right or wrong, in my opinion. That court, and that gives them a lot of backbone, because they don't like to pass things and then have it overturned. Just look at the 2018 minimum wage and paid sick leave ballot proposal that now, which has been 6 years, now got overturned, or the bait and switch, I call it, but the adopt and amend strategy that the Republicans did in 2018 on that, which was terribly wrong in my opinion, but that got overturned. So getting the court back, winning that back was a huge victory. And then the granddaddy was the 22 election, after we got the Independent Redistricting Commission to do their work and come out with what I think are fair districts, winning a majority for the first time in the State House and State Senate. For the first time in 40 years, we, on my side, had all three branches of the government, and then coming out of the gate in 2023, passing all that pro-worker legislation, the repeal of the pension tax. We restored a whole bunch of collective bargaining rights for teachers and school employees that had been taken away, which I don't think should have ever been taken away. We restored prevailing wage, which I didn't think should happen. We restored the ability for union workers to do union PAC deductions and dues deductions from their paychecks. Now, that was one of the most egregious and just blatantly wrong things that they did. How is it that a company can have their management employees have the ability to have PAC deductions taken out of their paychecks, but a union employee can't have it taken out of for their union PAC? That again is another one of those lines that nobody was asking for that. We worked that out through collective bargaining with our employers. Once it was programmed into a system, there was no cost to it. That was just another blatant attack on workers. So to get that overturned was huge. And then the granddaddy was repealing right to work. And that made a big difference not even as much as it did in fairness in workplaces, just the mindset that we could do that and that we could overturn that had national implications. I got calls from all over the country when we did. That was a big rallying point for labor in the whole country. And I'll say this, electing President Biden was just a tremendous thing that I think we did during my time here, way in Michigan, that cycle. And that set, in my mind, that set the tone for a lot of the things that we could accomplish. To have a president that's pro-union and pro-worker, and the way he talks about unions and the importance and working people and the middle class, it sets a tone, and it's like having fertile ground to plant your seeds in, I think. So all of that, now that I recall all that, it sounds like pretty good success for it to be.
I was going to say, it certainly means that Michigan lives up to its reputation as a swing state in a very relatively short period of time. The pendulum has swung dramatically, and it's gone from a sharp turn right, if you will, after the Tea Party elections in 2010 and then another turn under Trump. But in between that, you've had some shifts, and particularly since 2018, really, as you said. I'm going to ask Bill to take a few more questions, and then we'll wrap things up.
Ron, I'm wondering about the 2024 elections, how the AFL-CIO is positioned, maybe a sense of priorities, presidential, maybe the congressional races. And also, you've highlighted the critical importance of work here at the state, in the state legislature. The state house, of course, is having an election this year. Anyway, how is the AFL positioned for November elections?
I think we're positioned really well. And one of my goals is through 9 years and however many election cycles that is, it's at least 4, I think this is the 5th, has been to get us to start earlier. And frankly, we did this cycle. We've been out there in our work sites with our members talking about, not candidates, but talking about issues, asking them what issues are important to you as working folks. And we've been doing that for over a year, not just here and there. We've been doing it as a deliberate, orchestrated program. And then we would put out information on the issues that we thought were important to working people. So we've never done that before. We've always done it, but never that early. So I think that part got us on a really early start and in a really good position. Frankly, we had a lot to talk about in Michigan. All the things I talked about for the accomplishments we've made, but all the great pro-worker legislation that President Biden and Vice President Harris had passed. It gave us the perfect opportunity to be out there talking about all the things that were being done and advancements we had been making for workers. Our priorities, now we're flipping that to candidates, right? So we asked them what important issues were to them and given them information on what we thought the pro-worker people in power were doing. Now we're flipping that and having discussions around candidates and which candidates we think are the ones who line up best with the issues that they've told us are important to them. Obviously, our goals are we want to elect Vice President Harris and keep moving forward on the pro-worker path we've been down. We definitely want to keep a pro-worker senator here. So we're working hard for Alyssa Slotkin, and we want to hold our congressional delegation. And there's 2 open seats, which are both in really competitive districts that we're working hard to keep those. There's a couple opportunities for pickups. One out there in Macomb with Carmel Linda against John James. He lost by less than a sliver 2 years ago, and John James hasn't been great for workers. So there's opportunities for pickups. And Bill, you said it, the state house is a huge priority for us. We have a bare 2-vote majority there. if somebody's sick, we're in trouble. So we want to, frankly, we'd like to expand that to pick up a couple more seats. We have to hold that house, and we'd like to pick up a couple more seats. There's opportunities to do it. And the Supreme Court, there's 2 seats off. We'd like to hold those. We're working hard. We're farther ahead in our program. Like I said, we started a year earlier than we normally would, having conversations. But even for this part of the program where we're out talking about candidates and relating those candidates to the issues that are important to our members, we're farther ahead at this juncture on numbers. We track everything. How many conversations, we track everything. So we're farther ahead at this juncture than we have been in the past. So there's another goal another success. I've always wanted, every cycle I wanted to start earlier, and we did start earlier this cycle. So I feel really good. We'll see. It's going to be close. It is going to be close here in Michigan. No 2 ways. Michigan, Merrick said it earlier, we are a swing state, definitely a swing state, and it's going to be close. Here's how I feel about it from a labor perspective. We're big enough. I said we've got over our protected class. So that's union members, retirees, their families. Protected class is a legal term that means that's who we can talk to without pretty much having, it's like part of the family. You can talk to them as part of the family without too many campaign finance words. So anyway, there's about 1 million of them. That's 1/10 of Michigan's got like 10 million citizens, right? So that's about 1/10 of the population. If you cut that back to how many people actually vote, we're about 20% is labor. So here's how I view it. Every state's not this way anymore, but Michigan still is. Labor is big enough, unions are big enough here that we make a difference. If we do our job and we talk to our members and we get them out to vote, we've got a chance to win. If we don't, we will lose. That we're big enough that we influence and have a big role in deciding these elections. So I take that serious. It matters. So we do the work.
Impressive, Merrick?
Yeah, I was going to say thank you very much, Ron. Is there anything you'd like to tell our viewers about your job or anything about the political role that it has as we wrap up this interview?
It's just important. I think it's important that working people have a say, have a voice in the political process and in the legislative process. And that's the role we fill. A worker on his own compared to these big corporations or extremely wealthy people, very hard to get your voice heard. But that's the role we play. It's our backbone that we have each other's backs. It's at the core of our soul of who we are, that there's strength in our numbers, and coming together, we can have a voice for workers. That's what gets me up every day still. That's why I do this work. It's good work, and it's work worth doing.
Thank you so much, Ron, for appearing. I'm certain that our viewers will enjoy the episode very much. And stay tuned to our next episode. Bill, I'll let you have the final word.
Thank you, Ron. This was a very powerful message, and I think our viewers will appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate that.